My name is Alex Morgan, and the wedding's first dance was supposed to be the moment I'd remember forever. Instead, I watched it being live streamed, not to family or friends, but straight to my husband's ex-girlfriend. And the person behind the camera wasn't a stranger. It was my new sister-in-law, Emily. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just a wedding. It was an ambush. Before I go on, make sure to subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps expose the kind of betrayals families would rather hide. Back to our story. I never thought my wedding day would feel like a battlefield. The flowers, the lights, the music, everything was perfect. I was marrying Ryan, the man I'd waited years for. He was kind, driven, and despite coming from a wealthy family, he never made me feel small. I thought his family accepted me too. But from the beginning, Emily, his younger sister, gave me a look I'll never forget. A look that said, "You'll never belong here." At first, I brushed it off as nerves. After all, not every in-law becomes a best friend overnight. But Emily wasn't just distant. She was hostile in subtle ways. Backhanded compliments, rolling her eyes at my choices. And every chance she got, she brought up Ryan's ex, Madison, the one his family adored. I hated that name. Not because I was insecure, but because it felt like I wasn't competing with just a memory. I was competing with an entire family's expectations. On the day of the wedding, I told myself it didn't matter. Ryan chose me, and that should have been enough. I stood at the altar, tears in my eyes, and when he said, "I do," I believed for 1 second that nothing could ruin this day. But the devil doesn't always come in storms. Sometimes it comes dressed as family. The first dance began. The spotlight hit us, and I felt my chest swell with pride. But as I looked around the room, I noticed Emily wasn't clapping, wasn't smiling. She was holding up her phone. At first, I thought she was recording. But then, I caught a glimpse of the screen. A live icon. And the chat bubbles rolling in. She wasn't just recording, she was live streaming to Madison. My heart sank. In that instant, my mind screamed 1,000 things at once. Why her? Why today? Why would Emily do this to me? And then the realization cut like a blade, because to Emily, I wasn't the right bride. She thought Madison was. She didn't want me here at all. I stumbled in Ryan's arms, whispering, "She's streaming this." He glanced over, confused, then furious. But by then, the damage was done. Guests were starting to murmur. A couple of them even whispered Madison's name. My perfect moment had been hijacked. After the dance, I pulled Emily aside. "Why would you do that?" I hissed, barely holding back tears. She smirked, her voice low but sharp. "Because everyone knows Madison was better for him. You'll never measure up. At least now she gets to see what she missed." Her words hit harder than the betrayal itself. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even hiding it. She wanted to ruin me, to remind me that in her eyes, I was second best. That night, as people celebrated around me, I smiled through gritted teeth, but inside, a fire lit in my chest. Emily thought she won by humiliating me. She thought live streaming my wedding to Ryan's ex would make me break. But what she didn't realize is that she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, because I wasn't going to let it end there. This wasn't just a wedding anymore. It was the opening shot in a war, and I was ready to fight back. The reception carried on, but for me, every laugh and cheer felt hollow. I couldn't unsee Emily's smirk, couldn't unhear her words. Madison was better for him. That sentence replayed in my head like a broken record. I sat at the head table, pretending to enjoy the night, but inside, rage was boiling. My wedding, the one day meant to honor love, had been weaponized against me. Ryan tried to calm me. "Ignore her," he whispered. "But how do you ignore betrayal from family? From the woman who was supposed to be my sister now?" He didn't understand. This wasn't just petty jealousy. Emily had drawn a line in the sand. She wanted Madison, the ghost of his past, to sit at the table where I belonged. I noticed guests whispering more than once. A few of Ryan's cousins even asked, "Did you know Madison was watching?" The humiliation wasn't private. It was spreading like wildfire. My chest tightened with every mention of her name. Emily had accomplished what she wanted. She'd made me feel like an outsider at my own wedding. Later that evening, when most guests were busy dancing, I cornered Ryan in the hallway. This isn't just about her being immature. She wanted to humiliate me. She wanted me to know she still chooses Madison over me. Ryan rubbed his forehead. I know Emily loved Madison. She thought she was perfect, but she'll get over it. His words made me furious. Get over it? No. Emily wasn't sulking like a child. She had deliberately sabotaged me. And the worst part? Ryan's family would probably make excuses for her. My suspicions were confirmed when I overheard Emily with her mother near the dessert table. Her mother's voice was low, but sharp enough to cut. You shouldn't have done that, Emily. Emily shrugged. Why not? Madison deserved to see what she lost. Alex will never understand him like she did. Her mother sighed but didn't push further. That was it, the confirmation I needed. This wasn't just Emily. His family had never let go of Madison either. I wasn't just marrying Ryan, I was marrying into a family that still believed his ex was better for him. The night ended with polite smiles, but when we got back to the hotel, my mask broke. I sat on the bed, ripped off my heels, and looked Ryan in the eyes. Do you realize what your sister just did to me? To us? She turned our wedding into a sideshow. She broadcasted it to a woman who should have stayed in the past, and she's proud of it. Ryan looked torn. I'll talk to her. I shook my head. No, if you talk to her, she'll spin it. She'll play the victim. If I don't handle this myself, it'll never stop. She'll keep testing how far she can go. That's when I realized something important. I couldn't just be the bride anymore. I had to be the strategist. Over the next few days, the aftershocks kept coming. Madison posted cryptic stories on social media, snippets of our wedding with captions like, "Should have been me." I knew exactly how she got them. Emily had fed her everything. And because Emily was still tied into the family, nobody dared confront her. Instead, whispers circulated that I was overreacting, that it wasn't that big of a deal. I decided then and there, if they wanted to underestimate me, let them. If Emily wanted to play loyalty to Madison, I would show her what loyalty looked like when it was weaponized. But I wasn't going to lash out in anger. No. I was going to dismantle her piece by piece the way she tried to dismantle my wedding. First, I started observing Emily. She was impulsive, emotional, and always needed an audience. That was her weakness. She thrived on attention and approval. So I asked myself, what happens when the very people she craves approval from turn against her? The plan began forming in my mind. It wasn't enough to just call her out. I had to expose her, make it so undeniable that not even her mother could defend her. And I would use her own obsession with Madison against her. One afternoon, I invited Emily for coffee. She came, smug as ever, probably expecting me to beg for peace. Instead, I smiled and played the calm, forgiving bride. I don't want tension between us, I said softly. We're family now. I think Madison's great, honestly. If you want to keep her close, that's fine with me. I just hope you don't let it interfere with our relationship. Her eyes lit up. She thought she'd won. See? I knew you'd eventually understand, she said, sipping her latte. Madison really was perfect for Ryan. I just wanted her to feel included, even if things didn't work out. I bit back my anger and nodded. Of course. In fact, I'd love to hear more. Why don't you tell me everything you've shared with her since the wedding? She didn't even hesitate. She bragged. Every detail, every picture, every snide remark, she spilled it all, thinking I was finally on her side. What she didn't know? My phone was recording every word. By the time I walked out of that cafe, I had enough evidence to burn her world down. Audio of her admitting she live-streamed, audio of her admitting she thought Madison deserved the spotlight, audio of her mocking me as second best. But I didn't rush to use it. Timing was everything. And I wanted the reveal to sting the way her betrayal stung me. I waited until the next family gathering, a dinner Ryan's parents hosted for close relatives. Everyone was there. And when Emily started her usual smug chatter, I calmly pulled out my phone, placed it on the table, and hit play. Her voice filled the room. Madison really was perfect for Ryan. I just wanted her to feel included, even if things didn't work out. Then the part about live streaming. Then the part about me never measuring up. The room went silent. All eyes turned to Emily, her face drained of color. I was just joking. That's not what I meant. But it was too late. The evidence was undeniable. Her mother looked horrified. Her father shook his head in shame. Ryan sat frozen, jaw clenched, as the truth settled like a storm cloud over the table. I leaned back in my chair, calm and collected, and finally said the words I'd been holding back. Now, do you all understand why I call it betrayal? The silence after that recording played was heavier than the vows I'd spoken on my wedding day. For once, Emily had no words. Her perfect mask of confidence cracked in front of the very people she'd tried to impress. Ryan's father spoke first. "Emily, how could you do this? On your brother's wedding day?" His voice was sharp, laced with disappointment. His mother, usually her biggest defender, didn't come to her rescue. She just lowered her gaze, ashamed. Emily stammered, her cheeks burning red. I didn't mean it like that. I was just trying to include Madison, that's all." I leaned forward, my voice calm but firm. "No, Emily, you weren't including anyone. You were excluding me. You wanted me humiliated. You wanted to make sure everyone knew I wasn't welcome in your little world." Gasps rippled around the table. The truth was laid bare. For the first time, I had the floor. Not Emily, not Madison. Me. Ryan finally spoke, his voice low with anger. "You've embarrassed me, you've embarrassed Alex, and you've embarrassed yourself." He turned to me, squeezing my hand. "I'm sorry I let this go on for so long." That moment mattered more than anything, not just because Ryan defended me, but because Emily finally saw what she'd lost. Control. The brother who always let her antics slide wasn't protecting her anymore. But I wasn't done. I had saved one final strike. "Since you like live streams so much, Emily," I said smoothly, pulling up my phone, "I think it's only fair we let everyone see the truth." I tapped a button, and the recording that had just played in the dining room began broadcasting live to Ryan's extended family group chat. Aunts, cousins, uncles, all of them were watching in real time as Emily's own words condemned her. Her eyes widened in horror. "You wouldn't..." But I already had. By the time the audio ended, Emily was in tears, her reputation shredded in front of the very audience she always performed for. She had wanted Madison to feel included. Well, now she was included too. Everyone saw the truth. Everyone knew the betrayal. I stood up, brushing invisible dust off my dress. "The difference between you and me, Emily, is simple. You broadcast lies. I broadcast the truth." And with that, I walked out of the room, leaving her collapsed in her chair, surrounded by the wreckage of her own choices. In that moment, I realized something powerful. Betrayal doesn't destroy you when you hold your ground. It destroys the betrayer when their mask finally slips, and Emily's mask had shattered beyond repair. My wedding day had been scarred by her actions, yes, but in the end, I had the last word, the last laugh, and most importantly, the last dance belonged to me and Ryan, not Madison, and definitely not Emily. If you were gripped by this story of betrayal and revenge, don't forget to subscribe. Your support keeps these powerful stories alive, and there are many more family secrets waiting to be exposed. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what comes next.